This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome in, Paul Catalina and Steven Simcox here on the Triple Option. Steven, so good to see you. The Wednesday Wonderkind.
Good to see you too, Paul.
Yes. So we have another week of rankings that we can overreact to. And you know what? We're going to do that, Steven.
It's America's way, baby.
We're going to do that.
We get
We're
worked up about them.
Overreact to them. And I think that like some of the things are valid. I think the reason to complain is that there are – it just doesn't make – a lot of it just doesn't make sense, and you listen to the explanations, you know, because it just – the narrative plugs in. So that we're just – really, if we could get some real, honest – we don't like SMU. Like, if they just said that, like, we've got in this room, we just decided that we don't care who they've beaten. Yeah. We don't like them.
Do you think they actually break down numbers in there? I mean, do you feel like they're looking at, like, advanced stats and stuff?
I really don't know.
What do you think, Garrett?
I mean, I think at this point, as much as analytics are part of it, I'm sure you got somebody in there that's diving into that stuff.
I'm sure they have the information, yeah.
Right.
I just feel like they just go off the eye test. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think they just go off their gut, and they make the rankings, and then they trot, you know, the sacrificial lamb out there to be like, all right, if they ask you why we did this, then here's our answer. But, I mean, I don't get the impression that they're actually breaking down each week who's doing what and all those things. So, yeah, it probably is just SMU now. They're not for real in their minds, which, I mean, there's an argument against it. But it seems like right now, Paul, it can always change. It always does. There's just everybody's worst fear outside the SEC and Big Ten is happening, which is there's teams in the SEC that are still in the mix that you thought, like, 2-loss Ole Miss, like, they're done. And they're still sitting there, like, right in the thick of it with everybody else. And it feels like we could just get one Big 12 team, you know, and maybe 2 ACC teams, but it's very, very slim pickings outside of those 2 major conferences.
I think we're going to get one of each because I think Notre Dame's going to make it. And then here's the thing. I feel bad for Army because if they do, in fact, lose to Notre Dame, that's going to be the thing that keeps them out. Mm-hmm. Like, well, you lost to Notre Dame, so
yeah,
clearly you can't beat any other playoff teams.
Right.
Now, look, if Notre Dame drills them like they did Navy, then okay. But Army has not trailed for a single second all year long. And the committee says, congratulations, 24. I mean, putting them ahead of, say, Louisville would have been nice.
Right.
But it's not your wins, it's your losses. I think that's the thing that we learn.
Yeah, I mean, Penn State's sitting there, you know, and I don't think well, I guess we'll see what happens here towards the end, but I mean, I get it. Like, they've been impressive outside of that week against Ohio State, but it's the same Penn State team we've seen for years now where they're really good except for against the heavyweights in the Big Ten.
Yeah. And look, the Big 12 to me, I mean, having, you know, 0 losses and then to 2 losses is a problem.
Yeah.
For them.
Iowa State was, I mean, it was cool for Kansas, but that was an absolute killer.
Yeah.
This week. And Texas Tech too, but for different reasons.
Yeah. But Colorado though, I mean, again, you know.
Well, I mean, that feels like a squad. They've got NFL talent. They've obviously got brand appeal with Dion, but the 2 losses, it's just hard to get past that.
Well, yeah, one is to Nebraska, a team that's probably going to be 6-6, and then one is to Kansas State, who's right there above them in the rankings. Mm-hmm. You know, so I don't know. I mean, like, I think that, you know, there's certainly, arguments you can make, but, you know, Miami dropped down 5 spots after losing to Georgia Tech. They certainly look like they've got some problems because if they're going to be at 9 and SMU is at 14, and let's just say those numbers hold around that area, then whoever wins the champ, if they both win out the next couple, whenever they get to the championship game and play each other, the winner's going, the loser's out. That's what 9 and 14 tells me about Miami and SMU.
It seems that way. It seems like it's a playing game of sorts.
Notre Dame is the second ACC team.
They just go to a different campus.
Yeah.
They're like the transfer students.
No, my girlfriend, she goes to a different school.
That's right.
She goes to a different school. You don't know her. You don't know her.
She's in South Bend.
She's like so hot though. She's like so hot. Like every time,
she
like
would kill here.
she would kill it here. Like sometimes she'll show up at like here or like 3 other schools that are like around us. Like most of the time, she just kind of like chills, keeps to herself. What's up? You know, like that means she just, it's unbelievable. But you know, look, she does her own thing, and that's why I love her.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to watch it play out, but I guess let me ask you about BYU for a second, Paul, because I love them. I love the fan base. I think it's great. I like their identity. I think, you know, Kalani Sitake's a good coach. I'm already seeing like the outpouring of, well, they couldn't hang with so-and-so. As a TCU fan, I want to step in and be like, come on, Big 12, like, let's go. But then anytime I say that, people are like, hey, remember that time y'all played Georgia? And I'm like, well, and it sucks because I want to be like, well, remember Michigan? But, you know, the Georgia thing kind of outweighs it. Do you feel like they're built for playoff football? I mean, it seems like there's more parity this year than there typically has been.
I think so. I think, like, look, the transfer portal has changed everything. Mm-hmm. There's more parity. Nobody to me is like Oregon to me is the best team top to bottom, and they're not as intimidating as 2022 Georgia was.
Yeah.
You know, like that's over, you know, and I mean, like I have no problem saying that I think that era of college football is over, of a team being so ridiculously powerful and intimidating that you're like, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. Why are the rest of us here? Like, can someone tear their ACL so then they don't win a game and then we get in the playoff? like you want those things.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't want them to I want to be able to play again, just not this year. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is that has to happen, you know, like those kind of feelings you have as fans. So I don't know. I think that era is over. So I think BYU I think if you watch games, BYU can hang with anybody. Mm-hmm. Now, the question's going to be, you know, like offensively, defensively, they're legit. Offensively, they're okay. You know, Retzlaff's good. They don't really run the ball that great. It comes and goes, but because of their defense, they're in games, you know, and their defense creates opportunities.
Right.
You know, and they got their, you know, and here's the thing. Every team, I can point to almost every team in this top 12 and tell you that they've had a bailout moment given to them by officials or game situation.
Right.
For example, even though it didn't work out for them, it wound up being a loss. Texas got a bailout moment. I mean, you know, like, so everybody gets them. It just depends on how the game finishes. But Texas might be further down in the rankings had they not played a little bit better in that second half, because if not for that call, if that call doesn't flip around, I don't know if Texas scores again. I don't know if they do.
Well, and it kind of, I totally get what you're saying. It kind of funnels into like what people think about BYU too, because you know, every magical undefeated season for the most part has a moment that's like,
well, and
wow,
they've got a couple right now of coming back and beating Oklahoma State, and then they not only doubled that, like they like split it and doubled down and all that stuff with the Utah game last week. So, which to me, like, thank you for getting this rivalry in the Big 12.
Oh, it's amazing.
Because Baylor and TCU is a really good rivalry, and as much as Baylor and TCU don't like each other, I would say that don't like stops at the door of hate yet. I don't think it's quite there.
No, it was there for a little bit when the coaches hated each other. Not anymore.
No, yeah, that's the thing. Like, the coaches are cool with each other.
Right.
And you kind of wish they wouldn't be.
I know. And since the Art Gary thing, like the coaches have gone out of their way to be like, oh, I respect this other person so much.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you don't have to like. It's not like a best man speech.
Well,
like you can.
Yeah.
You can.
You know what's funny about Art and Gary? Art would have never said anything either way about Gary Patterson.
Yes.
Like he would never.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
There were he was friends with Coach Kingsbury, and he would say like, yeah, Cliff and I, coached him, but he would never say like anything either way.
Right.
Gary like made it known.
I don't like this guy.
Yeah, made it known. I didn't like this guy. And like I wish you'd have been like, they're like, so what are your thoughts on Coach Browse and the offense they're running this year? You'd be like, when we're getting the offense, I'm going to tell you straight, don't like him. Don't like him. I don't like him. I don't like his face. I don't like the way he talks. I don't like his kid. I don't like his other kid's husband that's on that staff. Phil Bennett's cool.
They're like, wait, what was the question?
I mean, Bennett's cool, right? Like, Bennett's cool. And, like, I have the feeling that that's how Phil Bennett is with, like, 95% of coaches. Like, there's, like, the little tiny subset that, like,
This is Phil Bennett.
It's hard not to like.
that don't like him. And then you look at those people like, oh, well, yeah, they're probably all.
Yeah, something's wrong
They're
with you.
probably all jerks. Like, but that was the kind of thing there. So it makes, and here's the deal: Kalani Sitake and Kyle Whittingham don't hate each other. They
No, they
love
don't.
each
They
other.
love each other.
They work together,
Yeah.
coach, like all those things.
Yeah,
Like,
Kyle took like a minute out of reaming out this ref.
Yeah.
To be like to dap up Kalani. He was like he was like mid rant, and he was like, "Oh yeah, good game, brother." And then he went right back to like.
But the thing is that the coaches, honestly, could literally like have a camping trip on the 50-yard line after the game where they like put on jammies and get in things like, hey, we're going to watch scary movies. If you guys want to hang out, we're making s'mores. Everybody's coming here. And the fans would be like, we don't like s'mores.
Yeah.
We don't, if they're going to eat s'mores, we're not going to eat s'mores. Like neither of us are eating s'mores. They don't like each other. And I'm here for it.
Yeah, it feels like it's not on the national level, but the feelings feel like Alabama, Auburn, or Michigan, Ohio State. Where it's
absolutely.
all year long, this is what they've been waiting for. And you saw it. I mean, Utah played out of their minds for most of that game. At least the defense did. And it meant a lot to them. They came up short, and, BYU survived.
Yeah, and the thing is that you have to feel for a lot of teams in the Big 12. Well, and like all these teams are in alignment, but particularly I think the Big 12 has been hit hardest with, because like some of the four corner schools got to move with some of their, like Arizona State got to come together, Colorado didn't really have many, like Colorado
didn't have a rival.
Colorado got to actually get some of theirs back.
Yeah.
Because they don't like Kansas State at all. They don't care for Kansas. They don't care for Oklahoma State. Like they don't.
Right, there's some history there.
Yeah, there's some history there. So Colorado got some of theirs back, as were Tech and Baylor and Oklahoma State in particular. Just had to like watch theirs go right out the door. And when you ask Texas Tech, who do you hate the most? They'll be like, well, now I guess it's Baylor. I don't know. Like, I mean, they were on my list, but like I had this feeling about them. But Texas and A&M were clearly above them, especially A&M. Like I think I don't know. It's probably I'd have to ask a Tech fan like before like with Texas and A&M, who was your most hated rival? Because, I know that, like, right now it's probably Baylor. And they're probably, I would say they're second for Baylor fans and TCU. I think TCU and Baylor are number one. I don't know how TCU and Tech feel about each other. I
mean, there's, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a hatred. There's some bad blood there, and they have a cool trophy, like they play for the Cowboy saddle, but it's not the main rivalry.
Yeah, so, but if you're a Tech fan, it was Texas and A&M. And I think maybe A&M first because, everybody hated Texas. So it's not like there were
special.
They were
there,
special. Yeah. And not that everybody didn't hate A&M, but it was like varying degrees of who, especially in the Southwest Conference days. But A&M and Tech had a rivalry that A&M fans very snobbily refused to acknowledge existed. But it was a rivalry. It was absolutely a rivalry. But A&M tried to pretend, and this is their big flaw, and they've learned it now because they've tried to create some new rivalries, which I think LSU.
Oh, that's a rivalry now.
It's a rivalry now. It finally became one.
They willed it into existence.
Yeah, they willed, especially this year. They willed it into existence. But I answer Roy Melton, always A&M. Yeah, for Texas Tech. Yeah, that's what I think. So. Yeah, A&M, I would say the most hated for Tech Because, again, A&M was like, no. We have one rival. We care about the one they call Longhorn. We shall slay them on top of the mount,
Right.
And then all will be restored to justice. That was their attitude. You're like, well, Baylor didn't like you very much. Tech really hates your guts. And they're like, yeah.
It's Texas.
It's Texas. And they're like, yeah, but, and look, Baylor, to me, and I'll tell you this, Baylor saying A&M was their rival was laughable in football because for 30-plus years they beat them twice. Mm-hmm. So that's not a rivalry. Tech, though, used to beat some really good A&M teams and, kind of derail their season. They had games where, Tech tore the goalpost down and, shoved it into the band. I mean, they were trying. Tech was like, listen, F you, dude. And A&M's like, well, this is just so rude. I don't know where this is coming from. And you're like, no, we've never liked you. You've got to reciprocate this. Mm-hmm. Well, we don't like you, but we're going to pretend like we don't care. But I can tell you that A&M fans are like, why do we lose to Tech? I think R.C. Slocum got fired because he lost to Tech 2 years in a row, 2-3 years in a row right there at the end. But they've been like, well, no, we got to keep pace with Texas. Oh, okay. It's not because Mike Leach is
suddenly taking you down.
Yeah, Mike Leach has figured you out. Yeah. No. So then A&M leaves the conference and they don't have any rivals. And they're like, you know what, LSU, you're a rival. And until literally 2 weeks ago, LSU was like, if that makes you feel better. Sure, welcome aboard, guys. Here's the thing. We really like playing you there because we're probably going to win. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to stay in Houston for 36 hours and go to all the commits that you think you're going to get. And you're going to be like, hey, come here and win a national title. And you're going to be like, why did we lose that guy? What happened?
That's exactly how it rolled.
So,
speaking of rivals, Paul, I cannot tell you how hard this is for me that SMU is legitimately a force in this thing.
I didn't even think about that.
They're leading the ACC.
Hey,
they're probably going to play in the ACC title game.
Think about this. There's been nobody who's transitioned from G5 to Power Conference.
I've thought about it. I've thought about it a lot. They literally took like 4 Austin Powers villains, just threw a bunch of money in a pot, and it worked. They're just like, hey, can we be in your conference? We got a lot of cash. I'm like, okay. And then we all laughed at them. We're like, you idiots. You're just buying your way into a conference so you can lose. And they're winning. Their head coach is Rhett Lashley. And they might be in the dang playoff, man.
Rhett was on the show yesterday.
I'm sure he's a good person,
yes.
But
he is. I love him.
It's not like they went and hired Dabo. I didn't even know they had fans until 2 years ago. And then all of a sudden, all these burner accounts on Twitter popped up. And they're just running the world. It's insane. I don't like it at all. I've spent most of my life just knowing that they exist, but they're just their relevance is a fantasy, and now they're going to be in the freaking playoff maybe. I can't do this, Paul.
I got to tell you, when I went there a few weeks ago and watched them absolutely – and DJU's career, which is what they did. I'm really surprised that they didn't just send send his helmet back like Darth Vader's at the end of Return of the Jedi. It just wasn't I think that honestly it was that's what SMU was doing at the end of the night, just playing our helmets yum. It was so bad. But I did have a good time. I thought their tailgating scene had quite improved.
Don't tell me that.
Yeah.
I know. They made a lot of strides in a lot of different areas.
It's a really pretty campus. I like TCU is a very pretty campus.
No, it's it's a beautiful campus.
Yeah.
I don't care. I thought when they beat BYU, or when they lost to BYU 18-15 on a Friday night, I was like, man, that's just 2 mid teams going at it. 2 teams that aren't very good. And then 2 weeks later, they hung 66 points on us. And apparently that was the confidence they needed. It's like suddenly they came back to high school after summer vacation and they were hot and they rejected TCU and then they just went on a heater. And now they can't lose. They destroyed Pitt. It was like a big game. It was like, all right, this is it. This is the rest. Like rubber meets the road where they'll collapse. No, they won that game. I still don't know what happened against Duke. They won that game somehow. I hate it, man.
Yeah. Yep. I wish there was another thing I could get to pull some of this out, but I'm running out of stuff. I mean, yeah,
things are turning on their. I mean, the world's not normal anymore.
No, I mean that's true, Stephen. That's very true.
It's true.
Yeah. No, it's. Yeah.
I'm not talking about the other thing. I'm talking about SMU.
Yeah. No, that's true. No, but it's ridiculous.
They had a roll. They had a lane that they were supposed to be in, and they've exited to another lane, and I don't like it.
So I ran into a girl I went to high school with in Fort Myers, Florida, and she was. I think she got her master's at FSU, but her husband. Like she had moved here and she got divorced and she got remarried. Her husband is an SMU alum. They live there in Highland Park. So she's done great. She's living life. She's a real estate agent in Highland Park, which, you know, everybody
probably doing well.
Everybody there's motivated to buy, you know. Like in your business as like a mortgage broker, when that person calls, you're like, no problem.
Yep. Yeah, they're not buying like $100,000 houses.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, but you're like, oh, you got 10 minutes for me to run this. I don't think there's going to be a problem.
Dude, it's insane.
Yeah.
People are coming out of the woodwork. Like, I didn't even know these people existed, all these fans.
Yeah.
It's like Black Eyed Peas fans. Like, I mean, people knew the Black Eyed Peas existed. You've never met a Black Eyed Peas fan.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, now all these SMU fans are out here talking about how great their ponies are.
Here's the sentiment I got from SMU fans, Stephen. It was walking around talking to a lot of them. This was a very important thing to the culture of this university.
Yes.
Then the NCAA took it away. Mm-hmm. And for years, there was no way to claw back out of this. Then the NCAA essentially collapsed. So we now can do what we were just sitting here doing before because everybody's doing it. And nobody even realizes that we've been sitting here for 40 years almost with all this money and no place to spend it because you wouldn't let us. And now we can do that again. So we're gonna bring back the thing that we love so much and we want it to be good. So we're going to do everything we can within the realms of whatever the power structure is in college football to let us do it. And I can see how that would anger TCU fans because you're like, well, you think you were doing it the hard way. Like, we're doing it the hard way. Like, we've had to do this and this and this and this. We've been to this conference and this conference and that conference and that conference. And now we're in the Big 12 and then we're in the national championship game. And then Georgia happens and we're kind of back to square one, it feels like. And then SMU's just like, open the vault.
I know. Whoop-de freaking do, man. Yeah. I mean, they made fun of us for the last couple of years because of the Georgia thing, and in my mind, I was like, well, at least they'll never be in that position. But now look where we are. This is the worst.
And then it's just, when's the last game in the series before they?
I think it's next year. So we got to win next year. Like,
yeah.
I'm going to suit up myself, I think. I don't know how much I'll help, but I can take this in my own hands. Because if we end the series because we're like, you guys aren't that important, and then we lose the last two, gosh, I'm already doing therapy once a week. I can't do 3 times.
No, here's the thing. They need to keep the series going. Like, they need to do this, like, the little 2-year break thing and then bring it back because the rivalry games are going to be the television numbers. And if SMU is legitimately staying power good and this is not just a, hey, all this is working out because of the money we spent thing, then.
Yeah, keep the game, man. It's a Power 4 game at this point.
But yeah, it's a Power 4 game. It's going to be a ratings game. They have to do it. So I thought it was silly in the first place that they got rid of it, and I think you're probably reaping some karma right now in the short term.
Well, I'm going to start praying more then because we got to defeat this karma.
You just imagine, like, I just think like a little, like, I think of it in Catholic terms, like a little boy, like, saying his prayers at night, like, dear God, you know, please give us world peace. But if you can't give me world peace, just can you please put SMU back to where they were before all this?
I don't have to imagine it. I got a note card for my kids every night. I mean, like, we got to defeat this evil.
Steven, I don't know, like, you might be the one who believes me. I don't think anybody believes me. I don't think Garrett even believes me.
That's a good setup.
You know what I'm about to say, right?
I'm kind of confused, but let me see.
No. So I have said, and I look, this year has even solidified it further. In fact, this past weekend solidified it further for me. I would rather FSU, if FSU could be great again, Bowden era great, year after year again, if the trade-off for that was that Miami and Florida also had to be great, I would take it. Because I can deal with a loss to Miami and Florida. I can deal with a rivalry game loss as long as that doesn't get, like, out of whack where it's like a long stretch of
5
like,
or 6 years
the
in a row.
only team you lose to is this one, right? But that was never really the case there. 2 years here, 3 years there. Actually, the Miami streak got long because Chris Ricks couldn't beat them. He lost them 5 times. And so, you know, like, I would trade that for them to be good all the time again. If the rising tide raises, you know,
all boats.
Boats. That's what I would like. No one, do you believe that when I say that, Garrett?
I mean, I get where you're coming from, but Alabama just beat the hell out of LSU, so I'm not really feeling it.
Okay, so but you believe that do you believe that I have that sentiment?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Do you believe me?
I do, yeah.
Okay, most people don't. Most people think I'm like saying something like a politician, like, look, I'm the president for all Americans, not just the ones who voted for me. No, I mean, like, no, I'm serious. Like, I will take it because it was way more fun that way than 1-9.
Well, and I think for you, I mean, not that it's dissipated but I feel like the peak of your Florida State fandom, like the time in your life where that was your life.
Yeah.
It coincided with Miami and Florida being
great. Yeah.
And so those games were like an event.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I guess in theory, if kind of the same way, like if suddenly SMU and Baylor and TCU, it was like this round robin where we're getting great games every year and those games mean something that have stakes, I would love that.
Right now, like if it was a music festival, like back then it would have been Woodstock. And now it's just like, okay, well, who's the headliner? And you're like, Foo Fighters, like, awesome. Foo Fighters is here. Who else is here? It's like 2/3 of some bands that you liked. But the lead singer is a different guy, you know. They found him on YouTube, you know, and you're like, okay, all right. Like,
What was your immediate reaction? I mean, I was here the day that it happened, but I guess I didn't ask you this. What was your immediate reaction when you saw the Billy Napier news that he was staying for another year? Were you like, let's go? Or were you just like, okay.
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
Okay. I know that's contradictory to what I just said, but I mean, that's my initial reaction.
Right.
But my other reaction is like, guys, we all like, I think they need to get together and be like, hey, do you remember like who was alive in the 90s?
Yeah, there was a time where this was really good.
Like, do you remember we were all good and then we've just let everything fall apart? Now, part of the problem in Florida right now is the high school rules are wrecking the talent. You can transfer anywhere you want to go. Like, so you've got these kids hopping all over the place. They don't start here. They don't develop. So the talent's not as developed. Now, it used to be comparing Texas and Florida. Charlie Strong said this is like Texas kids have like great high school coaching. They have facilities. They know what protein shakes are. He's like, you're in Florida. Like, you recruit a kid, you know, from Belglade, and he's maybe had one protein shake because he got it at the camp that they took him to, right? And they have a weight room with 3 benches and a squat rack, and some mismatched dumbbells, you know. And so he gets he gets into a school that has all that stuff, and you take this guy who's a linebacker who's 6'3", 190, and then it becomes 6'4", 225, 245 in a year and a half, and he's a monster and he's hungry, as where the kid in Texas is already 6'3", 225 because he might max out before. Well, they're not even to the point of where they're 6'3", 190. Like it's dissipating. And so those three need to get together and say, hey, let's take this back. Let's take it back because we controlled it for so long. But now Alabama and Georgia, and of course recruiting is national for everybody. But yeah, let's just say like this was Florida. The state of Florida in the 90s was the hub of college football. Mm-hmm. It's not that way.
Right.
It's not that way anymore.
No, it's not.
So
yeah, I mean, I could definitely see where you would be nostalgic for that. And also just like the idea of, like you said, all right, if everybody's good all of a sudden, you can't get embarrassed.
Yeah.
So you better be good. So it just, competition breeds success.
Yeah, absolutely. When we come back, is it wheel time?
What time is it?
It's 1:30.
We could do the wheel.
Let's go ahead and do the wheel.
Okay.
Let's do the wheel. Garrett, can you play 2 commercials for me? I've got something to do.
Yep, gotcha.
Yeah, so when we come back, the wheel. Also, welcome back to Jack McKenzie here during the triple option for the first time in a week. We've missed him terribly. He might have been here on Monday. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to him. He matters very little, although he's doing something I need him to do right now. So he matters a lot to me.
Clip that.
And there goes Jack. Crushed his self-esteem for the day, and he's gone. This is the triple option.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside Steven Simcox. Steven, are you holding up? How you holding up after that rant? Are you back down? Are you even keeled down?
I mean, vulnerability is always good. I think it feels good to just get that out there.
You know, I've never been prouder of you. I feel like, I mean, that was a very Paul-esque rant.
That was.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't have kids.
I'm one of your proteges.
Yeah. And so I've known you since you were in college. And when I see, like, part of me come out in someone, I mean, I beam with pride. It's like maybe the first time that you heard your kid say, you know.
Dad or something.
They'll go, like, you know, say a horned frog. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know what I can't remember what your slogan is.
Go Frogs.
Go Frogs. Oh, yeah. So
very original.
There, go Frogs.
Just, I mean, can't compete with it.
Yeah, like, you know, why would you want to be a pony? I don't know. Like,
I know. Yeah.
So
what a world we live in.
Yeah,
but yes, I feel okay, and we're doing. I mean, sticking on the SMU topic, we're doing buy or sell, Paul. Teams that can still win a title.
Still win a title.
Mainly
like the national title.
Yes, national title.
The
These
national
are
title.
mainly multiple loss teams. There's a few one-loss
Okay,
teams.
so we're not even ranking. We're just buying and
We're
selling.
just buy or sell.
Okay.
Can they win a national title?
Yeah, okay, I'm here for this.
You want me to spin?
Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Kansas State.
I'm gonna sell. I think they're not quite now. If you let's fast forward this to same time next year. I'll probably buy. I think you're seeing the foundations of a team that can do some things, but they've got some youth, and they're just not like they're not putting their stamp on games like teams that can win championships can. They're very, very good. They're very, very good. And look, after this, if you told me that the Big 12 fell their way all of a sudden, they win Farmageddon, they win the championship, they get in the championship game, they get there. Like, if the Big 12 fell their way, like, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think that ultimately they're just not quite balanced enough to win 3 games in a row and win the playoff.
So, dumb question. Like, how good is Houston? Because they've had these high moments. They've had inexplicable losses. I mean, I get it's year one. They're turning over this roster, but they're just an odd team, Paul. I mean, it seems like they can beat anybody any week and also lose.
Yeah. Bracket Cat said Junior Avery will be a scourge next year for everybody. And I think it's going to be tough. And I'm president of the Avery Johnson fan club. And I just think that there's just something missing from them that makes me confident that, okay, if you have to play 3 playoff games, you can win all 3 of those. I just don't know if they have that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So selling on Kansas State.
Selling on Kansas State.
All right. We'll go Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Yeah, I buy it. They got a veteran leader at quarterback. Their passing offense is not what it needs to be for modern college football. They're not going to get a first-round bye because they're not in a conference, so they're going to have to take the long way, but they're going to get a home playoff game, which should buoy their spirits. They can run the ball. Their defense is lethal. Their offensive line is really good in spite of losing 2 of its best players before the season started. Marcus Freeman is that guy at coach. I think he's dynamic and hasn't even scratched the surface of the things he's going to do. So yeah, I buy Notre Dame as a contender. I think they can win this year with that defense and that running game.
That Northern Illinois loss feels like it was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, like one from just where they are now, but also just it actually feels like a long time ago. So, I mean, it's the cool thing about the new system is you can drop a game like that. Notre Dame's a little bit different than everybody else, but you can still, in theory, have a shot to go win the whole thing. SMU.
Can I buy, sell, or hold?
Sure, you can hold.
Okay, I'm going to hold. I'm going to hold the stock for right now. I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to sell it. I'm going to hold off. We're doing like mad money right now. I'm going to hold. I'm going to hold on SMU. I think that they maybe could, but I need to see what happens against Miami. That's what I need to see. When you're playing a super, like they've got some good wins this year, no doubt. But when you're playing a super dynamic player like Cam Ward, what happens? That to me, with those receivers that he has and the running backs that they have, what happens? They have not, I would say, played a super dynamic talent yet.
They lost to Boston College in the Pinstripe Bowl last year. They lost to a TCU team whose quarterback at the time is now lighting it up at North Texas. And they lost handily. How did this happen? I don't understand, Garrett.
I don't know, man.
Okay, so we're holding on SMU.
Yeah, we're going to hold. I know it's a cop-out, but.
Miami.
I'm going to sell right now. I think they have the offense to win it, but their defense is trash. I mean, I do not see them. I mean, if they play Boise State or Wazoo in the first round, like teams that can run the ball, I mean, can
Control
they stop
the clock,
that?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, you know who the worst matchup in the country for them is after watching Georgia Tech throw no passes? Bryson Daly and Army. Should Army get there, which I don't think they will, because I don't think, the committee
We'll allow it.
Yeah. Like, they're going to be like, we have to put Army in this thing. Anything but that. Rank somebody else higher. We don't understand this option offense.
Yeah.
We thought we moved past it. No, I'm selling on them right now. They don't have a good enough defense to win. Again, you've got to win multiple games in a row to win the title. So this is not just you got to win, three games. Yeah,
winning one game on neutral field or even two.
Yeah. No, I just think that their defense is not good enough.
They feel like the Lamar Jackson Louisville teams, which those are really good teams.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was just like dynamic player. What do you think of Cam Ward in the NFL? Like what do you feel?
I think he's intriguing.
Okay.
I mean, he's got some talent. I think that to go from the NFL telling you to go back to school to now being one of the top quarterbacks is one heck of a grab. But he's played a lot of football. Mm-hmm. See, that's the thing I like about Michael Penix compared to some others. That's why I think I like Bo Nix. That's why I like Jaden Daniels. Like the quarterbacks at this year's draft, I'll tell you, Jason McCarthy, all of them in the first round have played a lot of football.
Right.
The ones I don't like, I get nervous about, are the ones like Anthony Richardson who haven't played a lot of football. Like he's got 10 NFL starts. He only had like 10 starts at Florida. Mm-hmm. So like he's not had a lot of starts. Cam Ward's had a ton of starts. Shedeur Sanders has had a ton of starts. Quinn Ewers has had a ton of starts at this point. He can't say completely healthy. That's going to be Quinn's thing. But those, like when I think about the top quarterbacks in the draft, those are the three right now that come to mind.
Right. And
they've played a lot of ball. And I'd rather have that than, oh man, this kid had one great season, because then you're in Trey Lance territory. Mm-hmm. Now, Trey Lance did start a lot of games at North Dakota State, but he didn't start a lot of games in the level he needed to, So, and look, if Trey Lance existed right now, he'd have won 2 titles at North Dakota State, and then he would be playing at, at Colorado. Well, I say Colorado, but he'd be at Kansas State, or he'd
some
be
Power
at,
5 school,
he'd be at LSU, or he'd be somewhere where there's like, okay, well, I'm going to go, get some starts in the SEC and show off a little bit here. So,
Penn State.
nope.
Just one loss, Paul.
Nope. I've been trashing them all week. Defense is great. Offense is actually good most of the time. But they just, James Franklin, their problem is the coaching in big games. That beating a team that's on their level. Mm-hmm. They don't. They beat everybody. Do you remember Scott Farkas in The Christmas Story? And then he had Grover Dill.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was like his toady.
Yes.
They are Grover Dill. Grover Dill is scary to all the other kids.
Right.
And they run off, and Randy lays there like a slug. It's his only defense. But, when it comes to Scott Farkas, they can't beat Scott Farkas. So.
Dude, yeah. I mean, it's rough. I've made that joke before that they just exist to be like a resume builder for Michigan and Ohio State, but it really does feel like it's real now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I agree with you.
Yeah.
We're selling on Penn State.
Yeah.
Colorado.
No. Can't run the ball. Can't run the ball. You're going to have to run the ball at some point. Now, they have, if they got in the playoff, I would have no problem saying, yeah, they're going to knock somebody out of it. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think that they can beat the upper echelon teams that can run the ball. And, because there's going to be a time at a game where you need to run the clock out, and they can't. So, teams, I always think of it this way, teams that rely so much on the pass, it's like relying on your ace pitcher to have his stuff every time out.
Right.
So, you're really relying on Shedeur to have his stuff every time out, which, for the most part, this year he has. Mm-hmm. Even the Kansas State game, he had his stuff, but they just lost to a team that was better than him that night. Didn't have his best stuff against Nebraska, and he's going to see a couple teams that play like that if he gets to the playoff. I think that, occasionally, you know what? Roger Clemens goes out there and gives up 4 home runs.
Right.
Like it's not, he's not painting the corners every time.
It doesn't travel. It's just not.
Yeah, it's just not like today. Like
Not
you're not
consistent
accurate. It's raining or it's not the
Another
weather's
team,
bad.
Another team's
or,
more physical. Whatever the case is.
You've got a DB who can take a couple of your receivers out of it. So.
Texas A&M.
Not yet. They will be though. I think Mike Elko's the right.
He's
dude.
the guy.
He's the guy. Now, if they get in it, I think they can win some games, but I think ultimately their offense isn't
Where it needs to be.
No, they've got some good players, but now like Le'Veon Moss is out. That's they're down. Lamar Daniels was the third running back. I mean, they're going to have to get creative with who gets the ball like in the running game. That's not Marcel Reed or Amari Daniels. Their receivers are good, but they don't have an alpha dog.
Right.
They have a whole bunch of they have like 4 number 2s. Like those guys are all really good, but they need someone who is an alpha. Like they need a Kyron Lacey, they need a Ryan Williams, they need an Isaiah Bond, like a guy who's like, okay, well, in this moment, like right, Tez Johnson, like give me the ball. Yeah. Anybody who's ever apparently played wide receiver at Ohio State is that guy.
We saw Torian York, linebacker, at the Temple game this past week, and he was saying, like, the South Carolina game was definitely we got a target on our back type of thing. And, I mean, they're still confident. He was talking about how incredible that Texas game is going to be, which it will be. I mean, it's going to be amazing. But it does feel like they're maybe a year or two away from being in full form. Yeah,
I think, watch that, like, next year I would not be surprised to see them at least repeat what they're doing right now and be better because they're gonna have there's gonna be a couple dudes who show up there,
right?
But their defense is good enough to beat anybody apparently but South Carolina and Notre Dame. But their defense is actually good enough to beat Notre Dame. They play good enough defense. They didn't play the offense that night, but their defense is good enough to beat Notre Dame. Their defense obviously not good enough to beat South Carolina, but everybody has their one-offs.
That's right. Yep. Georgia.
Yes, I buy Georgia. They're Georgia. Like, they'll figure out Carson Beck. Or maybe Jaden Rashada is just sitting there waiting. Or
just patiently waiting.
Patiently waiting to come in and
save the day, turn the season around.
Yeah, and Tua him. I don't know. But I don't even know if he's technically the backup, but.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know.
He's on the roster. But, or Carson Beck corrects what's been going on with him. And they're fine. They get some guys back healthy. Now, the one thing that makes me worried about Georgia's biggest problem is they had season-ending injuries on the offensive line. Now, that would not have been a big deal even a year ago to them. But now they're also feeling the effects of that transfer portal where those guys who were true freshmen 2 years ago, that last year, that they were still blocked behind the other guy, that's the NFL guy. Well, now they're gone because they transferred to play somewhere else. Right.
Or, they just don't have that depth. Like the 2022 team literally that offensive line could have left after the first snap and they could have put the other 5 teams in and they would have scored 6 less points. There would have been 1 3rd and 6 they didn't get, right? If there was even a third down that was that long in that game, I don't know.
Yeah,
but no. So I think they can because they're Georgia. But I'm not just saying stamp it, mark it. They could wind up out of this thing after this week,
right? For sure. Alabama.
Yes. Yeah. Dynamic coach, dynamic quarterback. Defense is getting better. Defense isn't great. The offense needs to be a little bit more consistent, but with Milroe, with Kalen DeBoer,
Ryan Williams,
he's pretty good.
Yeah, they've got some people that can make some things happen. I'm going to be fascinated to see when they get an actual running back again at Alabama.
I don't want to see that. Thank you.
Alabama, LSU actually has one in Caden Durham. I think that has some,
finally.
Yeah, but Alabama, like for them the last 2 years not to have a running back that affects the game at all.
Yeah, super rare.
It's kind of surprising me. But yeah, I think they can.
All right, we got I think 3 more left here.
Yeah.
Tennessee.
Yeah, they can. Dynamic quarterback, head coach, defense is really good. Good running game. They're, the offense has been a little bit figured out, but it hasn't really slowed them down that much. I mean, they keep winning.
I believe I need to double check this, but I believe I saw that Nico's out this weekend for a concussion.
I know he's in concussion protocol. I don't know if they
yeah.
officially ruled him out, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I think think so. And look, if they lose this week, they're still not out of it because they'd be
True.
a 2-loss SEC team.
Right.
But they might be out of the SEC championship game, but they'd have 2 losses in the SEC. So yeah. But yeah, I buy it.
Clemson.
Not a chance. No. They're they're better than I thought they would be, but no.
And Ole Miss finally.
Yep. Look, their defense, they proved it this week. That
You're missing half your team and you beat Georgia.
Yeah, I mean their biggest thing is if they get healthy, if they know that Trey Harris, who was putting up Heisman numbers before he's been out for the last month. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was if they get Trey Harris back for the stretch run, I mean, watch out. If they get those running backs back, if they get any of the guys that were out, they had 13 guys, I think, out. They had 26 guys on the injury list, and half of them played, half of them didn't. Jackson Dart got hurt during the game. I was like, well, that's it for this, and then came back in. I think he missed 2 plays overall. They punted, and then he came back in the next drive. So yeah, no, Lane Kiffin was missing a signature win. He's got it now. The one thing they don't have is mystique. There's no nobody's like, oh, here comes Ole Miss again. They have no mystique.
Right.
It's going to take a generation for them to get mystique. But they actually now have some street cred and some confidence for themselves. Okay, we can beat Georgia because they were the SEC's Penn State the last couple of years.
Yep.
Reasonably, their same thing where, oh, yeah, Vanderbilt comes in here, get out of here, kid. South Carolina, don't care. LSU, oh, jumped up and got you. Oh, it's a down year, though. They don't have a defense. So they got LSU, on a dip, but A&M, yeah, sure, we'll go toe-to-toe with you. Alabama, ooh, please don't hurt me, sir, I'm old. I'm weak and frail. Georgia, oh, God. That was how it was, Look, they lost in the Sugar Bowl to a Baylor team that quarterback,
was asked to leave.
I mean, I remember telling Jerry Hill, I was like, the quarterback just played his way to the tight end room and they won the Sugar Bowl because Dave Aranda's defense punished them, repeatedly punished them. So when they got to fight another bully, they got knocked down. But now, yeah, they knocked down another big bully. So they're there. So
yeah, it feels like for some of these teams, I mean, almost not playing in the SEC title game could be a benefit as far as just getting in the playoff, and then you go from there.
So, yeah, I mean, to go back on Clemson just a little bit, I mean, they're good, but they've played 2 teams that were as good as them this year or better, and they got shelled by Georgia, and Louisville didn't really have that much of a problem with them. So I kind of feel like they're a bit of a Penn State-ish type team where this not used to be Clemson. Clemson used to just take on all comers and drill them. But, when they play a team that's, at their level, I mean, they got the gift of a schedule this year. And boy, they do with it. They've lost to Georgia badly. The Louisville game was embarrassing, not because they lost to Louisville, but because, the coaching staff, particularly the guy in charge, made several decisions. You're like, can you count? Did something happen? I know you used to be really good at this, but what happened to where, has the math become too advanced now? Mm-hmm. Back when you were in Algebra 1, you killed it. But now that you're in Trig, you're struggling. You're struggling. I don't know what's going on. So, yeah, but yeah, no, I don't buy them as a contender. And clearly neither does the committee because of where they've got them ranked.
Okay, something I need to ask you before we go. Can you please give your thoughts on Jerry Jones being asked about putting curtains up in his stadium, in his windows, and saying that they should just burn the whole place to the ground?
Yeah. So Jerry's always been an incompetent GM.
Yeah.
he's now veering into the area of incompetent owner.
Yes.
He was always he was the most competent owner. There's nobody better at being an owner than Jerry.
Yeah, marketing the team, all that stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff.
10 of 10.
But now he's veering into you're not good at this anymore. It's almost as if that we should not give people in their late 70s and 80s really important positions of power. I don't know. I'm glad it only happens in sports. But we've seen this with the windows before, and he's always like, yeah, we like to know where the sun is. And all like, the thing is, Jerry, that doesn't matter because it's not like, Smokey brought a thing about, well, what about the old Boston Garden where there's like a dead spot in the floor? I'm like, well, look, if CeeDee Lamb gets open at that spot, it's not like he can be like, no, like over here. Mm-hmm. Like, no, we really need to run it to this spot. Like,
right.
If that's where he's open and the sun is directly in his face, then yeah, maybe like this time of year, the sun shines towards that way really badly. When you're going that way, or if you're turning around in the end zone and facing that way, it shines in your face. I remember Jason Witten dropping a very key pass, which I think might have been a touchdown, because the sun got in his eyes. And look, that's part of football, and the sun can get in your eyes in other stadiums too.
Right.
But the way that it comes through the prism of the glass is really something they can't kind of avoid. And if Jerry's saying it's a home field advantage, well, it is proven out over the years to not be an advantage for the Cowboys. And it is something that you could easily fix with just a shutter that goes over that little part of the window that when the game's over, when everything else,
open it up.
Yeah, I wanted to make it look like it was outside. Then open the damn roof. The roof opens, and then it is outside.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. So
it's insane.
Yeah, but if there's a sun shining in, and look, I can tell you, sometimes I'm here doing the show, and the curtain will get moved, and because there's a car parked at the light waiting to go, there's 2 minutes where I'm like, can the light please turn green because it's right here and I can't move.
Right.
So yes. Now, I have a curtain so that the next time it happens, which will be 5 minutes after that, I'm not constantly during the show like this. Well, I'm not trying to win Super Bowls here. So we have a curtain. We have something you do. You could put some different tint on the window. I don't know.
There's options.
Look, I'm going to tell you a story I think I've probably told on this show before, but I'm going to tell you a story about Jerry Jones and what lengths he went to make that the best stadium in the world. They were in Germany on vacation, and they saw a marble at this, wherever they were, the hotel or something. And they said, my God, this is the most unbelievable marble in the world. We have to have this for outside the stadium. This is perfect. This is what we've been looking for. This is what, when you walk up, that's the marble on the walkway with engravings and all that stuff. That is what is there. And so he goes and he finds the marble company. They said, well, no, sir. I'm sorry, Edward Jones. We only sell it to companies in Germany, in Deutschland. And he's like, okay. He bought the company, got all the marble he needed, plus some backup for in case something happens, then sold the company. I promise you, the fix for the windows is not that expensive. But now it's become a point of contention to where he's just giving double birds to everyone, especially the Dallas media, who's made way too big a deal of it. This is not the first time, though.
No.
This has been a thing forever. So this is, I think, the first time the rest of the world is finding out about it. But if you've covered the Cowboys for any length of time at all, you know that especially the radio guys, especially them, love to harp on the sunshine in the windows. And we know Jerry listens to all that stuff on both the stations, on the Ticket and the Fan. Mm-hmm. And there was another one for a long time that's gone now, but he listened to all of it all the time. He hears everything everybody says. And most days he loves it, good or bad. But the window thing, I think, is really bothering him because the one thing he's done right, over these whole 30 years of not winning the Super Bowl was he built the premier sports and entertainment venue in the entire world. And for you to say that it has a flaw,
It's too much.
it's too much for him. And for you to say it has a flaw that's hurting the thing that he runs that is also full of flaws is too many strikes for him to deal with. So let's burn the mofo down, you know? Yeah. So he's veering into that territory. And I do feel that there's some time it's like, all right, well, we got to get Dad his medicine. If he gets agitated, you know what happens. We got to call Doc Jenkins over here and
Get him,
take his blood pressure. Jerry, we talked about this, buddy. Can't get worked up like this. You ain't a young man anymore. All right? So
Just leave the windows be.
Yeah, would it kill you to, call Arlington Window and see what they can do? Look, I'll tell you this. There's a window tending place that is, and I'm not even making a joke here. There's a window tending place that is catty corner to the stadium there. You get Jose from that place, he'll be like, yeah, I got you. I'll hook you up. You give me tickets, we're done.
They do it for free.
They'll do it for free. Yeah, you hook me up. Make sure I don't have to run in this stadium and do standing room only. You give me some tickets, Mr. Jones. I got you. CeeDee Lamb will never drop another pass again. We'll get you double limo on this sucker. That's going to do it for us. Taylor McCarger on the show today. Nikki Collin, Baylor women's basketball coach. Look, even if you're not a women's basketball fan, Nikki Collin, always a fantastic interview. Smokey talked to her earlier. Tony Caridi from West Virginia. We do the Big 12 North Pod. Zach Gelb, Josh Furlong, the top five. That's going to do it. This is the Triple Option.